A college student grabbed a tiny pony bottle with barely half its air left and squeezed into an underwater passage just 18 inches wide. His job was simple: clear some rocks blocking the tunnel. But when his gauge dropped to near empty, he made the one decision you never make in a space that tight. He tried to turn around his chest and tank wedged hard between the rock walls. He couldn't move forward or back. His friends on the surface watched the bubbles stop. One dove in immediately. In the blinding silt, he could only feel a pair of boots sticking out. He pulled with everything he had. They wouldn't budge. It took rescuers 46 hours of pumping an underground lake, dry and chiseling through solid rock, to finally bring him out. This is the 2001 Clarksville Cave. Tragedy. In upstate New York, about 20 miles southwest of Albany, there's a small town called Clarksville. Beneath the Helderberg Escarpment that runs along its edge lies a cave system hidden in 400-million-year-old Devonian limestone Clarksville Cave. It stretches about 4,800 feet with 3 separate entrances: Ward Thook and the north entrance. Entirely horizontal. Inside you'll find walk-in chambers, belly crawl squeezes, and waist-deep wading passages. It's the most visited wild cave in the entire American Northeast. At the very back of the system, there's a chamber called the Lake Room. It holds an underground lake fed by groundwater. At the far end of this lake, an inclined underwater passage connects deeper. They call it Pauley's Avenue, about 187 feet long, almost entirely submerged except for 2 to 3 feet of airspace at the very top of its far end. The only way in is through a hole at the bottom of the lake. That hole is 18 inches wide, roughly the width of a man's shoulders turned sideways. Once you're inside, there is no room to turn around. On the evening of February 26, 2001, 4 students from Rensselaer Polytechnic Institute drove to Clarksville. All members of the school's caving club. Experienced underground explorers, every one of them. But none had ever taken a single cave diving course. None held any diving certification whatsoever. Their goal wasn't casual exploration. They came to clear debris, blocking Pauley's Avenue, hoping to open it up for future access to deeper passages. Their equipment was dangerously inadequate. No double tanks, no side mount system, no continuous guideline. Just one small pony bottle shared between them. A tank meant for surface emergencies, not cave penetration. The plan was to take turns. One person dives in with the bottle clears. Some rocks comes back up. Then the next person goes. Around 7:30 p.m., the 4 entered the cave through Ward entrance. After making their way to the lake room, they took turns diving. When it came to Robert Svensson's turn, he was 24 from Sherborne, Massachusetts, a computer science graduate student at RP. He took the pony bottle from his friend. Didn't think much of it. The gauge read about 1,200 pounds per square inch. A full bottle runs over 3,000. He had less than half a tank. For what he was about to do, that left zero margin for error. But Robert went in anyway. The water was 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Ice-cold darkness swallowed him whole. He turned sideways and pushed through the 18-inch opening. Inside, it was pitch black. His headlamp barely cut through a few feet of murky water. The floor was thick with fine silt and rubble. He could only move by dragging himself forward on elbows and knees. Every motion stirred clouds of sediment that cut visibility further. He worked as planned, clearing rocks, pushing them behind him. Then he felt it, the resistance in his regulator growing heavier with each breath. A glance at the gauge confirmed what he feared. Nearly empty. He had to get out now, but he'd crawled deeper than he realized. And this passage wasn't a straight tube, it had bends and turns. More critically, it was wedge-shaped. Wider at the entrance, narrowing deeper in. Sliding in along the taper was easy enough. But trying to back out meant pushing against walls that only got tighter. Robert tried to inch backward. His hips and tank caught at the narrowest point of a bend. He was stuck. Panic hit, and he started twisting his body, trying to find any angle that would free him. But that only made it worse. His upper body and tank locked between the rock walls. He couldn't move at all. His thrashing kicked up silt from the floor. Within seconds, visibility went to absolute zero. Complete blackness. Rock pressing in on every side, 40-degree water. A gauge reading empty, and no way out. A few meters away on the surface, his 3 friends sat by the lake. They'd been watching the water for bubbles. The steady stream slowed, then stopped. Allison decided to go check. She dove in, but the water was still opaque from all the earlier work. She couldn't see anything. Groping blindly at the passage entrance, her hand found something. A boot. Robert's boot. She grabbed it and pulled with everything she had. At first, it seemed to work. Robert moved maybe a foot. Then the rock clamped down on him like a vice. He wouldn't budge another inch. Allison's tank was the lowest of the group. She could barely draw a breath. She had to surface and tell the others. Barger went in next. He had the most air left, nearly 3/5, but he couldn't move Robert either. He gave up, climbed out of the cave, and ran to call for help. After he left, Allison went back in. She wedged Barger's tank as close to Robert's hands as she could reach, hoping he could breathe from it and hold on a little longer. Then she free dove again and again on held breath, pulling, tugging, trying anything. Each dive stirred up more silt, making the water even darker. She later described it as crawling through black mud into a storm drain. 10 minutes passed. Robert's feet had long since stopped moving. The tank she'd left was untouched. He'd never used it. Allison finally had to accept Robert was gone. Around 9 p.m., Barger reached the surface and called 911, but it took hours for rescue teams to arrive and gear up. But Clarksville Cave fought them every step. Just reaching the lake room meant crawling through hundreds of feet of tight passage. Heavy equipment couldn't fit. Divers attempted to enter the water but faced the same problem. Touch the silt and visibility drops to nothing. The passage was too narrow for a rescue diver wearing full gear. They tried pry bars from the water side, couldn't get leverage. Direct underwater rescue was declared impossible. So they made a different call. Drain the lake. Industrial-grade pumps were hauled piece by piece through the tight cave. That alone was a massive operation. Once running, they pumped around the clock, but groundwater kept seeping in. Progress was painfully slow. 46 hours later, the water level had finally dropped enough to expose the entrance to Pauley's Avenue. For the first time, rescuers could see inside the passage in open air. Robert was there, wedged between two rock projections. Face down, body twisted. They used pneumatic chisels and hand tools, carefully breaking apart the rock that held him. Hours more of delicate work. Too much force, and the passage could collapse entirely. On March 1st, 3 days after the accident, they finally freed Robert's body and carried him out of the cave. The medical examiner confirmed drowning. Air supply, exhausted lungs filled with water. This incident is now studied as a textbook case of what goes wrong when untrained people enter overhead water environments. First, no training, no certification. They were skilled dry cavers, but that counts for nothing underwater. A trained cave diver knows you never attempt to turn in a restriction. You back out slowly and deliberately. Second, catastrophic air management. Cave diving lives by the rule of thirds. 1/3 in 1/3. Out 1/3 for emergencies. Robert went in with less than half a bottle, total third. No guideline. In zero visibility, a line is the only reliable way back. Without it, even if he hadn't gotten stuck, he might never have found the exit. Fourth, completely wrong equipment. A pony bottle is a surface emergency backup. Using it for cave penetration is like climbing Everest in sneakers. They probably looked at that lake and thought it was only 10 feet deep. Didn't seem like they needed full cave diving gear for something that shallow. But depth means nothing in an overhead environment. What's truly dangerous in a cave isn't what you can see. It's the moment you assume you can still turn back. After the accident, the north entrance was permanently sealed. The lake room was backfilled with rock. Its depth is now barely 3 feet. No recreational diver will ever enter that passage again. Robert Svensson's story is still taught in cave diving certification courses across America, a reminder to every student who sits in that classroom.